Well, hello and welcome to The Spirit Safe. My name's Rob. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Now, one of the things I'm trying to do this year is some bottles that are affordable and that are from distilleries that I tried very early on when I first started drinking Scotch single malt, but haven't bought for a very long time. And one of those is Jura. It is on the Isle of Jura. And it is the only distillery on the Isle of Jura. Jura is right next to Islay, which of course has 8 or 9 distilleries, depending on how you count. So I was buying a lot of Jura early on, and I used to pick it up at the supermarket, and I would be buying the Jura 10. Here we have the Jura 12. I don't know if the Jura 10 is still in circulation, but that's what I was buying at the time. And I sort of bought into this idea of Jura being an underdog. So I was, looking at Islay next door with its 8 or 9 distilleries and Jura with just the one. And, to see something that was kind of unusual to me, to see that in the supermarket and be able to buy it was kind of cool. So I used to buy quite a lot of Jura, but it always had a little edge. So I never really enjoyed it fully. And then I quickly moved off from Jura onto other things when I got a bit more knowledge. So Jura Distillery is owned... it's not got the strongest reputation, actually, for a distillery. And it's owned by White and Mackay, ultimately owned by Emperador, which is a Filipino company that mostly produces brandy for the Filipino market.
Sabi ni Dad, sipag.
But they also now own White and Mackay, and the other distilleries owned by White and Mackay in Scotland are Dalmore, Fettercairn and Tamnavulin, and those three are also underperforming distilleries. So let's give it a fair hearing. Bottle at 40% ABV. I can't remember what I paid for it in the store. Maybe it was about 69, down from 70 or 79. I'm not sure. I'll add that in the comments. But I definitely bought it on offer. And, it was a little bit more. The full price, I think, was a little bit more than I wanted to pay for it. Let's take a look at the bottle. It's always had this squashed hourglass bottle, which I kind of like. You can grab it like that. Again, 40% ABV. I think it has unnatural colour, and I think it is also chill filtered. Very definitely has that gunpowdery edge that I remember from the 10 all those years ago. There's a little bit of dry spice, dry cumin, but it's not really vivid. It's not fresh. It's kind of stale spice. Purple grapes, citrus, kiwi, bit of fresh pineapple, and almond. Maybe some baking notes in there, but there's a little bit of something bothersome that I'll get to in a minute. Hint of smoke, very definitely some smoked meat, and I always picked up a smoked meat or salami type note out of the or smoked salmon possibly from the old Jura 10, and I remember that even going back all those years. There are some nice sherry notes in this. Sweet sherry, dried fruit, malt, apples. There is a slight straw or barnyard type note to it as well. Bit of tobacco. Later it's very, very heavy on the caramels, quite heavy caramels. And there is an odd, burnt, bothersome, acrid, oily kind of note to it, which... the closest I can describe it to is the ink from a ballpoint pen. So it's not the kind of natural pigment. It's that oily, acrid note. There's not a lot. There's just enough there to bother me a little bit. The palate initially very watery, but there is very definitely a sherry influence there. It's not a real depth, but there is a sherry influence. Dry fruit, and then it goes to an intense spice and cinnamon. There is quite a bit of bitterness as it moves into the finish. Peppery, some flattish malty notes, coffee, and then it tries to be honeyed, but that's just overcome by the pepper and watery notes. A little bit prickly as well. Although a little bit of honey is starting to come through on the nose now. So let's give it a little bit of water. I won't give it a lot because 40% is not very high. No, really minimum 43% before I start adding a lot of water. But that has woken it up, and malty notes are starting to come through. Very little smoke now, quite a bit of pear, peach and nectarine. The fruity notes are really activated by a little bit of water. Pick up some white chocolate, malt, sweet sherry, powdered ginger, a little bit of fresh ginger. Given time, a little bit of honey starts to appear, and those red and black round trees fruit gums as well. That's all from the sherry influence. Hint of lemon, a little bit of Christmas cake going on, Chinese spices but not really vivid, Chinese spices from across the room. I'm not picking up the ballpoint pen ink anymore either. With a bit of water, the arrival, the malty component to the arrival is a lot more oily, and it sort of sticks on the tongue a little bit, not very long, but a little bit. I think water does this good. Pick up some teas, dark chocolate, bitterness, pepper, sherry, vanilla, orange oil, and a little bit of cinnamon on the palate. And I think it actually, even though it's at a low ABV, it does improve at least the arrival. Can't save the finish, unfortunately. The finish on this I find burnt, short, bitter and watery, unfortunately. It's got a little bit of a metallic edge. There's a wishy-washy malt going on. Lots of bitter chocolate notes or bitter Turkish coffee, tarry, carbolic. With water, it does clean the finish a little bit, but you get this slight medicinal note, quite a bit more salt and coastal notes with a bit of water. Otherwise, yeah, fine. I think there are very few whiskies at 40% that are improved by water. Excuse me. And this is probably one of them. I don't think I'll ever... there's any danger really of me ever buying a Jura 12 again. I would consider anything, if they were to put out something at 43 or 46%, I would consider it. But really, there are just better things to spend your money on. I'm looking at other things like what's it called now? The Deanston Virgin Oak. Even though that doesn't have an age statement, still a much better whiskey than this. And then there are others in the same price range that are much better. Jura, unfortunately, has simply failed to find its feet. So I will not buy this one again, and I will just keep an eye on the range to see if they start changing the way that they are doing things. Anyway, love to hear from anybody if they think that this is an excellent whiskey and I've got it absolutely wrong. But yeah, I'm keen to hear anybody's views. Anyway, until we meet again, stay in good spirits and hope to see you soon. Cheers. Goodbye.